All of the rallies, of course, for the new Group A regulations. Coefficient 4, meaning it's probably one of the most prestigious European events of the year. The Rally Garrigues, always a very closely fought affair, and 1987, I'm sure, will be no different, especially when one considers you've got Lancias, Mercedes, Renault, Peugeot, and the European debut of the highly competitive BMW M3, entered for the French driver Bernard Béguin. A large crowd as ever on Friday, the 27th of March. Away goes number 1, Patrick Sniers, who leads the European Rally Championship Series with his Lancia Delta HF. Of course, regular viewers will know the Lancia team have won 2 of the 3 World Rally Championship Series. At number 2, the reigning European champion Dario Cerato from Italy. All the major European contenders taking part in this event because it is a coefficient 4, in other words, the highest rated European Rally Championship event and qualifier. Number 3, Yves Loubet with another Lancia, and Loubet, you may well remember, in the Rothmans Alfa Romeo in 1986. But this is the car that's causing the greatest amount of interest, the BMW M3 of the David Richards Autosport entry, Bernard Béguin with the Rothmans BMW, with co-driver Jean Len. Of course, they had real homologation problems in Monza in the World Touring Car Championship, where incredibly the top 6 BMW M3s were thrown out. So there are no homologation problems, it would seem, here for that car on the Garrigues Rally. Away goes Bernard Darniche with one of the Mercedes 190s that have been entered, and this is the Works Renault for Alain and Sylvie Auret. That's right, a husband and wife team. Well, that's one way of spending the weekend, I suppose. The Lancias, I've got to say, were very disappointed. We expected Patrick Sniers as leader of the European Championship and Dario Cerato to go well. After all, the Lancias have, as we've said, won 2 of the 3 World Rally Championship qualifiers. But it was this man, Bernard Béguin, Jean Led, with the Rothmans BMW that absolutely dominated the event. Béguin, who many years ago actually drove a BMW M1 around these very tight roads and normally was very quick, now with the BMW. As through goes the Renault of Alain and Sylvie Auret. They were successful in the '86 Monte Carlo Rally in Group A, but here, surprises, Jean-François Mauge with the Mercedes 190E, that at the moment was to be second to the flying Béguin. Béguin absolutely sensational in this sensational-looking car. Now, Yves Loubet with the Lancia had tried to go quick. As you can see, he obviously thought he was in Australia because he'd turned it over. He was to be out of the rally. But here is second-place man Jean-François Mauge. Never heard of him before, but what a tremendous drive. And he was up to second place. Up to third place at the end of the first leg was the Renault of Alain Auret. But Bernard Béguin astounding many people with the speed of the BMW. Quickest on almost every single special stage, and by the end of the first leg was no less than 2 minutes and 51 seconds ahead of the Mercedes. And 3 minutes 50 seconds down in third place, Alain and Sylvie Auret with the Renault. There in second place, Jean-François Mauge with the rather bulky Mercedes, but driving it to really good effect. End of leg 1 then. Bernard Béguin with the pristine David Richards Autosport Rothmans BMW. Béguin, leader of the Rally Garrigues here in Nîmes. A terrific performance by this French driver who has great experience, of course, especially on tarmac rallies. But let's see how he does on leg 2. The final day, Saturday, the 28th of March on the Sunday, and you'll be able to see this in next week's Motorsports News. They had a sprint around Nîmes, and there are some very unusual antics, as you'll be able to see. And join us for that next week. Meanwhile, back to the Garrigues Rally. The leader and pulling away all the time, the BMW, on its debut event. And what can one say about the Mercedes 190E of Jean-Francois Limoges? A young driver, just 19 years old. Very good performance in what really is quite a bulky car for these small tarmac special stages. The Renault, well, no real surprise in that. Array going very well with the works car. You may well remember that in the Rally of Portugal, and incidentally, you can see the second part of our extensive coverage of that event in this coming Wednesday's Shell International Motorsports. The Renaults had put up quite a battle with the Lanciers in that World Championship qualifier. I wonder how the BMW of Bernard Béguin will do then in the Tour de Course, this all-tarmac World Championship qualifier. The BMW stamping so much of its authority on this event. Still in that second place, the Mercedes 190, and in third place, the Renault. But then on special stage 14 of the 18 special stages to be run, would you believe both the BMW and then the Mercedes on the next stage were to be out of the Garrigues Rally. For the BMW that had led from the first to the 13th stage, the 14th stage was really to prove unlucky because the gear stick broke. They lost a considerable amount of time when they had to stay in second gear for the stage. Their service crew repaired the gear stick, but then the car would not restart. They found later that the temperature sensor was telling the onboard computer that the engine was cold when it was really hot. 25p part, and they were out of the rally. And the Mercedes was then in the lead for just one stage, and then it went out with wheel bearing problems. That left the Renault 11 on Alain and Sylvie Auray to go on to become victors of this 1987 Garrigues Rally. So victory by some 10 minutes and 5 seconds to Alain and Sylvie Auray with the Renault 11 Turbo. In fact, Renault's finishing in the top 4 placings. Second was Paul Roubaix and Jean-Louis Martin. Third place, Philippe Boulgassi and Jean-Marc Andrieux.